And greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here on BlazeTV radio and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He is Todd Erzin. He's Aaron McIntyre. Joined by our good friend, the still newlywed minted Rachel Cauley from the Center for Renewing America. She will join us very shortly for the Deace Group. This is, if someone sent you a note about one of your advertisers and they put the word vomitous in the subject line, gentlemen, what would you be thinking?
Uh-oh.
That's what I was thinking.
Trying to think through our advertisers here.
Yes. All right. My wife cleaned out the camper freezer after a camping trip, but she was too short to see 2 1/3-pound hamburger patties had slipped out of the bag and were lying on the bottom of the freezer. 1 week of consistent 90-plus degree temps later, we returned to do some work and discovered the most horrible smell. It smelled outside the camper with the windows closed and the doors locked. We had to get carbon filter masks to go in. We scrubbed the freezer, but the smell remained overpowering in the whole camper. And then I plugged in both of my 2-for-1 Eden air purifiers, and ran them at full blast.
There it is.
In 36 hours, the smell was gone. It literally saved me from having to set my camper on fire. That is from Gino Torrio with a, shall we say, very potent testimony on behalf of our partners at Eden Pure. If maybe you have a vomitous test that you would like to put the Thunderstorm air purifier to as well, get the 3-unit package for whole home or camper protection when you go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code Steve. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code Steve. No filters to replace ever. And you get free shipping as well at EdenPureDeals.com, discount code Steve, plus free shipping. All right, next hour, of course, we will have some Feedback Friday, but let us begin with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with issue 1, Bleep, Lord Nefarious Says.
I'm not a scientist, so I'm not in a position to talk about vaccination, but this is not going to be the last pandemic that we see. We'll see more and more pandemics arising due to climate impacts and the emergence of new bacteria as a result of increased greenhouse gases and methane emissions.
Cool. My name is Teacher Roby. I am non-binary. I use they, them pronouns. For example, they are a great art teacher. They taught us how to draw stitch. Many of you already know that about me. Pronouns are super important for myself, for you. It's important that we get it right every single time. If you ever make a mistake, I'll just politely correct you. And you should also be making sure that you use those correct pronouns.
Okay, so this is gonna get a lot of people mad, but the harsh reality is that trans women are actually biologically women. I know it's like super shocking, but the most important sex determining organ in your body is actually your brain. And there's a lot of research to show that trans women have brains that are very much in alignment with our gender identity.
First of all, let me say that our president has been an extraordinary leader. A substantial amount of time we spend together is in the Oval Office, where I see how his ability to understand issues and weave through complex issues in a way that no one else can to make smart and important decisions.
The president has, I think, been too slow to keep the commitments that he's made publicly, but at least he's supporting the effort. I think he could have done it more skillfully.
We asked voters who were concerned about President Biden's age why they were concerned. They say it might negatively affect his ability to serve another term, his mental and physical competence, understanding of the next generation's concerns. People are clearly seeing age as an issue here. Are you saying it's no issue at all?
Well, I don't think it should be an issue, age itself. I think what should be an issue is results and performance. And when it comes to results and performance, President Biden has a spectacular record.
I think early next year we'll be in the phase of chasing up people who haven't come forward to get their vaccination or have missed their bookings and so on. So everyone will be able to get a vaccine between now and the end of the year. But of course, and I want every New Zealander to come forward, but human behaviour suggests that there will be some people that we have to actually really go out and look for, and some of that may spill into next year. But our commitment is everyone will have the opportunity to get the vaccine by the end of the year. Everyone will, but I can't say that that we're not going to have some hesitant people or some people who just haven't come forward that we don't have to go out and find next year. In terms of the vaccine mandates, I acknowledge that it was a challenging time for people, but they ultimately made their own choices. There was no compulsory vaccination. People made their own choices.
Is any of that going?
First question, we just used that word and I like it so much. Let's use it again. What was the most vomitous moment that you just witnessed? Rachel, you're the guest, and ladies first. Go ahead.
That complete whitewashing of Australia's concentration camps for the unvaxxed, as if those never happened. We've seen, and I know we'll talk more in depth, probably you guys have been talking about COVID, is it going to come back or not come back? But we have been seeing them try this for the last couple of weeks. But for them to say, we're going to try it again on you, but also just completely ignore how we tried it again on you last time, to me, that was absolutely ridiculous and the worst of this week.
Todd, what about you?
Yeah, was he an Aussie or was that New Zealand?
New Zealand.
Okay, that dweeb. And right before him, in America, Chris Van Hollen, same person. And this is what I try to tell you when I say the lie is the point. It's not rhetorical flourish. You've got to understand. It's so obvious they're lying, just as Rachel just got done saying. But they have no moral ballast. Other what Chris Van Hollen said, he says the only thing that matters is results. He's telling you the truth. We will say and do anything to get what we want. The truth is immaterial. We don't even believe in truth as such, not in the way that our forefathers and the founders of this country. You have got to understand that. You can resent it all you want to, but unless you understand, they're never going to start telling the truth. They're just going to lie all the time because it works for them. So you got to start asking questions about yourself and how you play this game in light of that.
Aaron?
Mitch McConnell saying that...
By the way, props to Emerald Robinson for coining the nickname Glitch McConnell. Wish we'd have thought of that. That is brilliant.
Saying his criticism of Joe Biden is that he hasn't provided more aid to Ukraine fast enough or skillfully enough. That is just essence of the DC swamp right there, just filling your nostrils. That is the essence of the swamp. And of course, it comes from the guy who you don't know at any moment may need to do a Windows Control-Alt-Delete reboot. The second thing is at the very beginning. That woman, I think she's with the World Health Organization, talking about how methane gases are going to cause more pandemics. I think there are a number of cults within the umbrella of the spirit of the age. I think at the very top, though, and we talked about this years ago when we had the luxury of talking about and debating so-called climate change. It's really just global warming warmed over or cooled over. At the top of that food chain of cults, under the umbrella of the spirit of the age, it is that one. It is the cult of the global warming fanaticist, because ultimately that is the spirit of the ages, Armageddon. That is their end times eschatology. That's really what it is, and that's what they use. That's what drives almost every policy, is this eschatological view that we're going to kill the planet, and I think that was borne out in that clip.
Can I go back to the McConnell thing for a second that you brought up, Aaron? Because I think there's more meat on the bone there, if you don't mind. Consider that we have seen Mitch McConnell glitch out, stroke out in real time twice now in the last few months. Twice. And at this point, you put him in front of a cameraman and you're flipping the Harvey Two-Face coin, right?
Yeah.
How's this going to go down? And yet, when it comes to funding Ukraine,
clear as a bell.
He is alert. As you just said, as clear as he could possibly be. There you go. At his age, there's a certain resolve in his voice. I mean, that is to me the picture of largely, with few exceptions, 6 months, the first 6 months after the 94 Congress, first couple of years of the Trump administration. Other than that, since Ronald Reagan left the national stage, that is an encapsulating snapshot of the National Republican Party. I can't be bothered to address any of your core concerns. Are elections free and fair? Is the border secure? Can we, what about, can we stop printing money and passing on inflation? Can I afford a car, new or used? We have the most expensive housing market in American history. I can't be bothered with your concerns. And in fact, they bore me. But even in a state of decrepit health, where I am at a moment's notice capable of completely and totally stroking out, when my elitist globalist agenda is on the pallet, I revert back to somebody that is still alert and acts with some level of conviction. That is the Republican Party for the last 35, 40 years, with very limited exception.
This is such a great observation, Steve, because this is the flip side of the coin of what I have observed before. When you listen to John Fetterman, when you listen to Joe Biden, they can't string sentences together unless they're talking about the most evil BS policy, late-term abortion, mutilating the kids. Oh, then they're on point. Then there's some resolve in their voice. All of a sudden, the dementia and the strokes disappear. This is the flip side of that coin. You don't know if
just a coincidence.
Glitch McConnell is going to glitch out again, unless he's talking about funding a war that doesn't really serve our interests over in Ukraine. That's a great observation.
It's the clip from our show that the Blaze put out earlier this week that went viral. We are in this position that because of the radicalization of Democrats, we cannot afford to let them win elections, because it's clear they want to end our way of life. We cannot afford to allow Republicans to win elections because their feckless response has made it very clear that they're just not serious about doing a damn thing about it. Is that a good place to be in? When there's only two options and you don't really benefit if either one of them wins in most cases. Is that a good place for free people to find themselves?
All I know is Ukraine is clearly the reverse Wakanda. I mean, there's treasure there that makes the stuff in National Treasure look like, your kid's allowance. Geraldo opening up Al Capone's vault, but it's actually full. I mean, what are they hiding? Because it's amazing.
Let's get to the exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds Barack Obama did not engage in homosexual acts at some point, and 10 being the odds that Lindsey Graham is willing to be engaged to Barack Obama.
Did you see the smile on Rachel's face just start beaming after?
She looked like a bride on her wedding day.
Let's
cut the cake. Let's light the unity candle. Go ahead, Rachel.
When I saw that Tucker interview today, I knew that interview was made for one thing and one thing only, and it was the 1 to 10 ranking system on the Deace group.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with the scales that I just introduced, rank this week's level of total depravity. Todd.
10.
Where are you at, Rachel?
10.
Aaron.
5.
5?
Yeah.
Why are you at a mere 5?
Because both of these things are the same. You're just both of the. It's like 1 is a 10 and 10 is a 10 as well. So every place on that scale is a 10.
You've Shannon-joyed yourself. Yeah. Well done.
Before we get to issue 2, folks, did you know that a majority of U.S. pork production comes from a company that has Chinese ownership? I mean, that's probably not. It's probably not good either. There is a better way, and it's our friends over at Moink. That's Moo plus Oink. Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and sustainable wild-caught Alaskan salmon straight to your door from Moink farmers and fishermen that do things like our grandparents did. That's why the meat tastes the way that it should, because the family farm and the family fisherman does it better. And you can taste the Moink difference every time you taste Moink. And you can feel good knowing that you're also helping family farms stay financially independent as well. You choose the meat delivered in every box, like ribeyes to chicken breast to pork chops, salmon fillets, and much more. Plus, you can cancel at absolutely any time. So help keep American farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/Steve right now. And if you do, listeners and viewers of our show, you'll get free ground beef for a year. That's 1 year of the best ground beef you will ever taste, but for a limited time. When you go to MOINK, moinkbox.com/Steve. Again, moinkbox.com/Steve. Free ground beef for a year at moinkbox.com/Steve. All right, let's continue on with issue 2, making COVID great again.
They're trying to make COVID a thing again.
So all of us need boosters. So 6 months of age and up. We're going to have boosters by the end of this month, hopefully.
Whoopi is not here. She has COVID. Yes, it's back.
The increase in hospitalizations and shows that COVID is here to stay.
The President was with the First Lady yesterday. He will be masking while indoors and around people.
I explained to the press, I've been tested again today. I'm clear across the board. But they keep telling me because this has to be 10 days or something, I got to keep wearing it. But don't tell them I didn't have it on when I walked in.
I have COVID. I just have COVID. I can't wait to get back and hang out. But until then, it's me and my mask. And I'm sort of confined to my room.
First question. Todd, I'll go to you first. Are they aiming to truly bring the full force and brunt impact of COVID stand back? Or are we just paranoid? What say you?
You're kidding me, right? Really?
I thought I'd start you off with an easy one.
That's a question for somebody else, because I think that's answered from what I'm concerned. They're not going to stop. There were zero consequences that mattered to any of this. They played with your entire life. The Constitution was immaterial. They hate you. There's countless reasons why they're going to do this again. And we've been telling about you since March of 2020. But yet you persist. I just have nothing but contempt. And this, I tried with every fiber of my being to be civil in as much as I could publicly when this was going on the first time, because I just saw, I felt pity for that level of brainwashing. The second time, I will be taking a different approach.
Meaning there's no excuses now. We fully know what we're dealing with. There's no excuse now. 1 time, shame on you.
Yeah.
2 times, shame on me. That's kind of your approach?
Yeah.
Aaron, what do you think?
So, no, we're not being paranoid for all the reasons that Todd just said. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Now, I do think there is an important addendum to put on that as well. And it comes from Daniel Horowitz, who I saw tweet the other day. The system rarely runs the exact same playbook over again. Get ready for a curveball. So, yeah, I think it could be a little bit different or a little bit worse. I don't know how that could be. But since nobody was held accountable, the system gets to use its imagination for whatever's coming up next. Whatever that is, if something is indeed coming. So, no, we're not being paranoid. Nobody was held accountable. Nobody's demanding accountability for the most part. And so why wouldn't you? You have this power at your fingertips now. You can unleash this anytime you want. We're supposedly in bed with the WHO in terms of, we got to do what the WHO says, the World Health Organization. Nobody was held accountable fundamentally. And so, all of the people who were wrong about this the first time, who maybe came around to it, it'll be interesting to see how they handle this. because I don't really have any great anticipation. The response is going to be much different the second time around.
All right, so Rachel, let me clarify something. There's a reason why I saved you for last here in asking this question, because I wanted Todd and Aaron to respond first, and I assumed they were going to respond the way that they did. And I want to come back to you with why I asked what is a seemingly obvious question. You're the only one on this panel that has worked in the environment of Washington, D.C. professionally and experienced the subculture there. So let me try to narrow this question down further. Is what we are witnessing just with an obvious attempt to bring COVID back, is it really just their own statist, panicked worldview and psychoses coming to the forefront, which is inevitable? You can't disguise your true beliefs. You can't disguise your worldview. Sooner or later, your worldview finds you out. Worldview is destiny, as we say on our show. Are we just witnessing that? Like at the mere thought of that another strain of COVID was here and she tested positive, given her worldview, Whoopi Goldberg could not help but isolate herself in her home with a mask. That's the math. That's the math in her. That's the mental math for her. Are we just watching that play out? And then if we don't check it, it could invariably become an avalanche of policy against us later on. Or is this a purposeful attempt to bring the full brunt of the policies associated with COVID back? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Is this their psychosis, or are these crisis actors?
Steve, I think it's the former, because they have everything that they want now. If you look just right now in Washington, what's going on in the House and the Senate, you're talking about Ukraine. Republicans are hand over fist raking over everything on Ukraine. Climate change stuff, Republicans are talking about it. House Republicans, when they took back the majority, one of their first acts was, let's create a Republicans for Climate Change caucus. Check on that. Pre-COVID spending levels. We Republicans have been screaming it's way too high. COVID forced us into a welfare state that's turned into a hammock, yada, yada, yada. Kevin McCarthy doesn't care. He's going to, hey, Schumer, how can we do a CR and keep it at these levels? Every single policy outcome that we got from COVID or was that part of COVID, they have already, and Republicans aren't stopping. So from my perspective, it has to just be number one. It has to be because they're absolute sadists. This is what they truly believe. They got a sense of power, and they're just going to try it again. However, I will say I am surprised, along the lines of what Daniel was saying in his tweet, I am surprised they're trying COVID again on us. I thought they would up their game and try something like Ebola or something that made us bleed from our eyeballs. Because where have they been? None of us, I'll speak for myself. Here in D.C., you're not seeing many masks. Kids are going to and from school by themselves without masks. Maybe that's just the world I want to see, but it seems like people are pretty over it. So I am surprised, and I am waiting for the curveball, because I think you're right. But no, I don't think this is about policy outcomes. They've got everything they want. They'll lift a finger. Republicans will be in majority, and they'll get it again. I don't think they need a pandemic to get what they want.
That's a good answer. Here's why I think that this question is important, because I don't want to make it seem as if option A is better. It's not. It's just different. I don't think it's better. I think it's different. Because if Rachel is correct that we're just really watching their own psychoses come to the surface, they don't have to Rahm Emanuel this issue. They have everything they want. If Rachel's correct about that, and this is just the natural, organic manifestation of their own belief system, I don't think we should take any comfort in that either. Because if we are sharing a quote-unquote free society, if we are sharing a quote-unquote self-governing system with people whose natural inclinations organically, without needing a good crisis to not let go to waste, but that's like, this is the vision quest. This is the culmination of their innermost desires, is to be panicked, is to be coddled, is to be controlled, to be herded. How do you share a country, at least a free one, with that? Do you see what I'm saying? Like in some respects, it's almost better off if this is just a cynical attempt by a few elites to use a virus to garner political power. But if it's really the natural worldview of too many people we're sharing a country with, to just naturally want to curl up and accept that level of domination without any form of a cynical power play. They're just doing it because they believe in it. That could almost be worse.
Well, yeah, and just to completely rip off the work of one of our colleagues, Oron McIntyre, just tweeted this a few minutes ago. There's that video of I think it was the elderly person completely wrapped up in plastic during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Hugging what looked to be his grandchild, or maybe her grandchild. That video went viral this week, and this is what Oron said. The fact that people complied with this should inform your understanding of a political reality. There's no need to get angry. This is who modern people are, but that should factor into how you understand the world. This is what you're talking about. This is what you're talking about. People want this. I think there's a deep, and we talked about this a little bit at the time, there is something deep within a fundamentally secular, godless people that being panicked and being coddled gives their lives meaning.
Correct.
In some way.
Being willing to submit to something is bad. Wanting it is actually arguably worse, Todd. That's arguably worse.
Yeah, and we can laugh at the masked people, and
which I'm for, by the way.
And this is deeply connected to all the transgender stuff as well. But all of that is ultimately possible because of the people who are just like them, but they look like the four of us. They're the Netflix and chill crowd. They've been comfortable for so long that anything that takes them out of that is the biggest nuisance to them. So they will jump on board the tranny train, they'll jump on board the pandemic train, whatever it takes to protect that. That is the worst sort of elitism that you can't be about, because everybody's going to go, hey, this weekend, I'm going to race. We got movies, we got football, we got all this stuff. That's the real pandemic. We will believe absolutely anything to keep the world flat there in our living room.
Rachel, we'll give you the last word here. You got about 90 seconds.
You know, one other thought about why I don't think this is necessarily to get policy outcomes, but essentially to achieve their sadist goals of keeping us home, making us eat bugs, keeping us unhappy, not driving cars, is that the same week they're trying to up COVID, Biden cancels LNG by rail, cancels the ANWR. Gas prices are extraordinarily going to go up. They're trying to make sure that you saw Berkey water filters are being shut down because they don't want us to protect our water stream. There's all these things that they're doing. Travel's almost impossible because migrants have taken over O'Hare. There's a 4 or 5 different prong approach they're trying without the pandemic to try to keep us home. And to be quite honest, those are also being very successful right now.
That was just awful.
Yeah.
That was very awful. Exit question. Who or what did COVID cause you to lose the most trust in? Aaron.
My neighbors.
That's an awful answer, but true.
That's it. The people.
The people.
Yeah.
Rachel, what say you?
I'd say the church, evangelical church in particular.
Yeah. I know.
Not that I had trust in them. I would say the word disappointment, to be clear of my theology.
No, you don't trust in their courage of conviction, basically, is what you're saying. That
their discernment of spiritual leadership.
That there'll be any kind of, pardon the pun, bulwark against statism on any level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men of Issachar are hard to find these days.
Yes, they are. And I mean, I think both the answers that all three of you gave are very depressing and sadly also very accurate, unfortunately. All right, when we come back here, I want to talk about lawfare and what's the way out here when a social compact is broken. I got a lot of reaction to the interview I did with Glenn Beck on his podcast 2 weeks ago, talking about a broken social compact. And that's really what creates the e pluribus unum that, is manifested in what a constitution lays out and says, now here's how we're going to live together because we're in a social compact with one another. And one side has broken that compact. And so how then should we respond to it? I want to get into that when we return here on the Deace Group. Stay tuned. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, we are eagerly wanting the parallel economy, and it's coming. It's just going to take a minute. Thankfully, one place where it is fully available is with one product that we fully need to have access to be fully engaged as Americans. That's our mobile phones. Make the switch today with our friends over at Patriot Mobile. If you are a member, they give you access to all 3 of the major networks. You can switch to any back and forth anytime you want for free. They have an outstanding customer service team, dependable nationwide coverage, and best of all, though, they offer a great product in support of your values, not in opposition to them. If you're a veteran or first responder and you want to make the switch, let them know when you call in or email them. If you visit the website or call in, let them know, and they'll give you extra ways of saying thank you for your service. For the rest of us, you can get a free activation when you use the offer code STEVE at 878-PATRIOT. That's the number, 878-PATRIOT. Again, 878-PATRIOT, or just go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. Once again, patriotmobile.com/Steve or 878-PATRIOT. Let's welcome back in Rachel Cauley from the Center for Renewing America as we continue on with your weekly look at the week that was. Let's get to issue 3, mutual assured destruction.
Dozens of militant anarchists and eco-activists opposed to the construction of a police training center that critics called Cop City have been indicted on racketeering charges. That's according to Georgia's State Attorney General in an announcement earlier this week. The sweeping indictment made public on Tuesday after it was handed up by a grand jury last week accused 61 members of a group called Defend the Atlanta Forest of illegally occupying the training site while committing vandalism and violence. GOP Attorney General Chris Carr slammed the defendants during a news conference on Tuesday.
They lived illegally in and around the trees on this property for nearly 2 years. In order to barricade the site, we assert that the defendants set sharp traps designed to injure anyone who might approach them, including law enforcement officers. As further alleged in the indictment, the defendants used incendiary devices, such as Molotov cocktails, large mortar-style fireworks, and were in the process of constructing a rudimentary explosive device.
The statute Carr used to accuse those Antifa trolls is the same one used to indict Trump and various supporters last month. Good on Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr.
All right, so I want to pick up there where Aaron left off with his open. The use of the exact same RICO statute against these Antifa thugs and trolls that is being used against Trump and the co-conspirators down there in Fulton County. So, Jenna, one of the things I've been talking about in various interviews and on this show for the last few weeks now is the social compact, meaning that which binds us together as a people. And that's articulated in our Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And according to the laws of nature, nature's God, we consent to be governed by a government that protects our God-given rights. That was the social compact of America. That is gone. It doesn't exist because we can still assent to it. But if the people that we are living in the country with have abandoned it, then, it's like, holding on to the engagement for a wedding when the other party just has made it clear that it's just not showing up to the event and you're just left there at the altar, basically. And so in light of that, when we have a social compact, then there is built in to that calculus an incentive to not go to too much of an extreme one way or another in opposition to each other, lest you be punished by the voters for violating that social compact. And what we saw with Obama, beginning with Obama, was the end of that social compact. A new era of radicalism in one of the two major parties, did not care about losing elections, like Rick Santorum. I've quoted this many times. Like he said about a decade ago, even if Democrats knew in advance that they were going to lose the nearly 1,000 elections that they did lose after Obamacare, they would have done it anyway because of the power it gave them. See, that was not said before. When the Clintons tried nationalized health care and got their asses kicked for it, Bill Clinton opens up the very next State of the Union address with the phrase, "The era of big government is over." Like they still acknowledged the will of the people and the whims of the voters. The new Democratic Party doesn't care how many elections it loses, just marches on. And so if the social compact is broken and fear of the voters no longer is the incentive that enforces it, we have to come up with another enforcement mechanism. And I can't think of one other than mutual assured destruction, which is you want to use lawfare against us, we will use lawfare against you. You want to put our people in prison? We'll do the same to you. That we have to now, I think, treat the Democratic Party the way Reagan treated the Soviets in the 80s. He recognized there were crazies in the Kremlin who actually thought the U.S. was weak enough they could win a nuclear war. He had to show them that no one wins a nuclear war. It's just mutual assured destruction. You cannot win. And I think that is our only path forward here at this point. I want to get your take on that.
I, 2 weeks ago, was in the Fulton County Jail having a front row seat to watching my colleague being perp walked into getting a mugshot taken of him and treated like a criminal, Jeffrey Clark. And I have for a very long time wanted Republicans to stand up and do the exact same thing that they are doing to our people. Here's where I am frustrated, just because I've had a front row seat to watching what, say, Jeffrey has gone through in the last couple years. I'm frustrated with the likes of Attorney General Carr, and I take a different viewpoint. Antifa members who burn down your city should be prosecuted. You should throw the book at them. That's the minimum of your job. But you know what? Also, Chris Carr, who was the cardboard cutout of Brian Kemp as he's trying to get his job, and Brian Kemp are doing, they're not putting their necks out at all on the line, as the law requires them, Georgia law requires them to stop. In a minute, they could snap their fingers and stop what Fani Willis is doing in Georgia with all of these defendants, and they're choosing not to. So I get frustrated when people say, okay, punishing Antifa is mutually assured destruction in the same way that they're doing to us. We're talking about political prisoners, people that did nothing wrong. They absolutely should be protected, but they don't have the balls to stick out their neck and say, I'm going to use my power to stop political persecution, but I'll distract you over here with a couple RICO charges to lock up, Antifa Susie, who's been transing herself for a couple years and got a bunch of Soros money. So call me unpopular opinion here, but I don't think that Carr's actions are mutually assured destruction. I think they're a shiny object to get him elected as governor. Okay, that is a very fair point. Let's take it higher, though, than that specific example. As a meta rule, do you agree or disagree that the only path forward at this point is mutually assured destruction? 100% in every single instance, across the board, at everything.
Todd?
Yeah, well, you're both preaching different sides of the exact same coin. I think you share the same, you have to mean this. You can't fake it, because the other side isn't faking it. They mean it. You got it all in. This is an all-in thing. And you know who agrees with you? Like MLK and Gandhi, by the way. This is what they meant. They were very principled to ultimately do what they do in front of the world and suffer to finally get things to stop. But they'll tell you in their own words, yeah, we were principled, but we wish we had a different alternative. We had to be principled out of desperation. They were both defenders of the Second Amendment. Gandhi, yes, lives in India, but when he talked about the right to bear arms, he was absolutely, if we had the option of playing on an even playing field, right, we would have taken that instead of the dogs and the torches and all that stuff. This is the same point. While we still have an even playing field for ourselves, in as much as we do, instead of handing off to our children getting attacked by the dogs, absolutely, it is time to punish them severely for what they've done to us these last 3, 4, 5 years. And they will tell you over and over again, they simply refuse to stop. You have no real sense yet how much they hate you and what's coming for you. And it's dark beyond your understanding.
Aaron.
So I agree. Rachel, that point was very fair. I think what's going to be required here amongst governors, attorneys general in red states especially, they're first going to have to get very imaginative, use their imagination, and then they're going to have to get very, very bold in going after the various whether it's Antifa, whether it's just interest groups, whether it's the federal government that has hell, in Iowa, you would think Iowa, it's a small state, it's in flyover country. No, there are branches of the federal government with field offices here that you could go after because it's Tuesday. It's easy to get to that point where you're imaginative and bold when you understand how you led this off with the social compact has been broken. And this is maybe the most important thing that I will say today. Even in deep red states, that compact has been broken. If your legislature is made up 100% of Republicans, if your executive branch is made up 100% of Republicans, If your Secretary of State and Attorneys General are all Republicans, the social compact has still been broken because the lefties that live in your state have decided that it has been.
Exactly.
You have to understand that and then treat them accordingly.
Exit question, true or false? The Republican Party will never be willing to do its part to ensure mutual assured destruction systemically. Thus, this entire conversation we just had is a moot point. Todd.
It's probably true.
Aaron.
On the whole, true.
Rachel.
It's true, and if the Federalist Society type lawyers and judges that are causing a lot of these horrible decisions to be made continue to be in charge, they're also going to be part of the problem, and it will always be true.
I don't want anybody to answer this. I'm asking this question rhetorically because I want it to simmer and to ponder. Does everybody understand?
Yep.
Fully.
Yeah.
If it's true that there's only two options for agency in America, and one of them is behaving as if the social compact is broken, and they can do whatever they want to you or the people you vote for, and the people you vote for, who's the only other option, does not behave that way in response, in defense of you. Does everybody understand what that means and where this will ultimately go? Issue 4. Did you guys see that thing over the weekend? Actually, it was in your montage right, on Monday or Tuesday. You had the fake Nazis, the guy that was waiting for Guffman level of overacting, community theater kind of stuff. Rolling Stone tried to paint him as DeSantis supporters, and they were out there saying F Trump and F DeSantis, and we're actually Biden supporters. They were saying this on tape, right? Okay. So this was clearly what we've dubbed on the year a feds only, if you get the... or an Only Feds, maybe is a better pun. An Only Feds production, okay? If you could produce one Only Feds production, what would it be and why? Aaron.
So for me, I would have FBI agents who maybe didn't hack it or are facing disciplinary action, which is what I assume that these guys were. I would have them dress up in drag. And I'm talking about like the most scantily clad drag there is, like the ones that the drag queens reserve for when they know children are going to be in the audience. I would have a group of them dress up like that in some of the worst drag costumes you could imagine, and just hang out in front of Lindsey Graham's house and just see what happens.
Rachel, if you could do an Only Feds production, what would it be and why?
So here's my OnlyFeds fantasy. I want a bunch of OnlyFeds dressed up as candy stripers, walking up and down the Senate halls, helping every single one of the inmates eat their chocolate pudding from a fork. Nancy Pelosi just announced re-election. They can go over to the House side and do the same thing over there.
I love
Pick
the
on
use
somebody your own size, OnlyFeds. Stop picking on us Americans.
I love the use of the term candy striper, too, to put that in there.
I used to be one. Remember that? Candy stripers. I was a candy striper.
I know. And look where you are now.
And look where I am today.
Exactly.
I don't even take note of none of them very vaccines.
That's exactly right. America, your daughters could turn out just like Rachel. Todd, what about you?
I have something more radical than either one of those.
Of course you do. Yes.
You just dress up like a teacher, a veteran teacher, but just, a little gray in the hair, no purple hair, no multiple piercings, just a normal teacher. And you'll actually go to your school board meetings and stand up for real education and real students.
That's crazy.
Instead of just the teachers saying we got to transit, just another teacher from the other side to stand up.
Rachel's candy stripers are more realistic than what you have proposed.
Radical. I told you I was radical.
I mean, that's insane, Urson. You drank too much vinegar for your birthday.
Yeah, I am still drunk on that.
You are ashamed. Let's get to predictions. Rachel, go ahead.
Deion Sanders is going to last 3 to 4 years at the University of Colorado and win a national championship while he's there.
You think he'll be there that long?
I don't know. Isn't one of his sons have at least like 3 more years? I don't know. They're all going to probably.
They all just transfer whenever they want now. Yeah, but I hear you.
That's true.
Okay, Todd.
That's
Tucker Carlson's next interview is going to be with Corn Pop. And because we only know part of the story. Remember, it started off with some hostilities, but then it grew into a friendship. But it grew into an even deeper friendship after that.
Deep indeed.
Yes.
As deep as it gets.
Yes. There's depth.
Very deep.
There's depth to Corn Pop.
In fact, by the way, I've been asked what I want my grandpa name to be. Corn Pop. I want my grandkids to call me Corn Pop. That's what I want. I like Corn Pop. What do you think?
That's
Would you love in a few years, little third generation Deace grandkids come in rummaging around? Corn Pop, Corn Pop. Can we get something to drink? If the first time you see that, your reaction would be what, Urson?
I've got questions.
All right. Aaron, what about you?
I don't like the trajectory this weekend is going. Now, the Chiefs lost last night, but there's no shame. Your lines are solid this year. And then my wife texted me a picture a few minutes ago. There's now candy corn in my house, which means that tomorrow, there's only one way this weekend can go on this trajectory. Hawkeyes will probably lose to Iowa State 20-17. I had them winning, but...
My prediction is there will be a vote to vacate Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House by the end of this year. I'm not optimistic it'll be successful or anything of that nature. But remember, one of the reforms that they received back in January was anybody could bring this up at any point in time, right to the floor. And I think by the end of this year, it will be brought to the floor to vacate Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House.
Okay.
And that's it, I guess. It's fun being on the right.
We suck.
We do. Rachel, good to see you. You did a great job as always. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. God bless. You bet. I do want that Corn Pop interview to happen, though. I want that very bad. At this point, I think I might even need it, actually.
I think the odds are better for that than your Kevin McCarthy thing.
You think so? See, because the real play
Tucker's
is...
on a roll.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? All right. Feedback Friday is next. Stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2. Thank you for tuning in. You have made it this far. Might as well finish out this week. And you might think, it can only get better. No, it won't get better. But we are here to teach you a thing or two about suffering and endurance. And since you've made it this far in, you might as well go ahead and finish it off while America's being finished off. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. Find me over on Truth Social at Real Steve Deace. And then don't forget, DEACE is the last name. And then, of course, if you're a podcast listener, and I know many of you are, hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, follow so that every new episode shows up in your feed every single time we do one. But then also, please, if you wouldn't mind, leave us a 5-star review if you like us, of course. And thank you to the thousands of you that have done that for us already. Feedback Friday is brought to you in part by My Patriot Supply. Folks, if it feels like we are on the brink of managed decline leading to economic collapse, it's because if unchallenged, that's exactly where the people in charge now will take us. So make sure you're prepared for the next time. Oh, that could never happen here. Happens here. All right, get 25% off their 3-month emergency food kit now. 25% off their 3-month emergency food kit. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, snacks. The full complement of the 2,000 plus calories that you need each and every day. And you'll get free shipping too, so you'll know, should it go down, when it comes to the food supply for 3 months, you and everyone in your household is taken care of. 25% off every single one of the kits. They stay good for up to 25 years with proper storage, and with 16 different types of meals and sides, you can mix and match for variety. PrepareWithDace.com is where you want to go for fast and free shipping. PrepareWithDace.com. Again, head over to preparewithdace.com. All right, you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Absolutely.
Let's begin with Steve Donnelly in Pennsylvania, who writes, the expectation for Tucker Carlson post-Fox were of a new version, both politically and culturally, of Andrew Breitbart, and the redefining of commentary and influence via social media. Instead, we've gotten the new Geraldo with Tate and Sinclair and a new gatekeeper for all things MAGA and Trump. Reaction to that?
My reaction to this Tucker stuff is more about the people at this point than Tucker. I find encouragement in so few things these days. I'm actually encouraged that as many people are as disappointed with Tucker as we are. Do you think I'm reading that correctly? Are you both seeing it? It seems to be.
I think there's people that are willing to be a part of an audience like this that are disappointed. I think that if you're not willing to be a part of an audience like this, and you're much a lot of the other kind of yakety yak, chuckle hut, Team GOP, rah kind of stuff, then you're totes fine with what Tucker's become. In fact, you're probably helping him accumulate views, I would guess. So especially as it relates to the Trump interview, I just think people expected more. That's a good thing, because that notion, expecting more across the board, is how we get out of this thing, and we expect almost nothing these days. What do you think, Aaron? Is Steve tough but fair, or too tough?
I don't think we know enough yet to foist him up as gatekeeper of MAGA, although it certainly seems that way. But then again, he comes back, a week and a half later and says, yeah, he's too old and should have participated in the debate. So I know I'm supposed to have an answer or a hot take or an opinion. I just don't know what he's doing. And I don't think really he does either. I listened to the entire interview. He was being interviewed by Adam Carolla, who's been a guest on this show, by the way. And he likes being free. He really likes being free from Fox, because he can travel wherever he wants, whenever he wants. He can talk to whoever he wants, whenever he wants. I don't really think he knows what he is yet or what he's doing yet. So I don't know. That's my pat answer. I know I'm supposed to have a hot take, but I really don't even think he knows what he is yet.
That's fair.
Fox.
That's fair too. I will say that, you know what? I thought about what you said on the overtime yesterday. I really think that Trump interview for me, after the first few of his episodes, I haven't watched like any of them. And so I was already kind of disappointed with what I was seeing before that. And that the soft peddling of Trump, and then after you interview him, now you want to state issues you have when you could have just said it right to his face, kind of confirmed where I was trending already, if that makes sense. All right, but I agree with what you said in the overtime yesterday that it does play some role in my disappointment. I don't think it's the herald of it, though. I think it's this just kind of confirms the way that why I stopped watching these episodes for the last month and a half. And I keep coming back to this. You could do every day in conservative media if you wanted to. You could do, and when I say you, I mean us too. Like, we could. In fact, let's narrow it down to us. We could do a show every single day if we wanted to, or at least most days, just riffing off of Tucker's opening monologue the night before when he was on Fox News. Is that fair?
I felt like sometimes Tucker was doing his opening monologue on the show that we just got done doing.
Yeah, I felt like that, but that's we'll just say great minds think alike. We could do most nights. The monologue that he did was of such importance and significance and so much substance that even on this show that we kind of reject a lot of the chuckle hut team GOP talking points. We don't care about any of that. We're not into this for any of that. We on our show could do our own riff of his monologue many days a week when he was at Fox for the last few years.
For sure.
How many shows could we do of substance on the basis of what he has done since he's been out on his own? Maybe a few.
Well, I know
but certainly, especially the first couple of ones.
Yeah.
But honestly, like in the last month and a half, do you feel like we have really missed out that we haven't taken any of Tucker's content and had a serious thought and discussion about it? If we didn't do if we went a month and a half and didn't address anything that was in a Tucker Carlson monologue on Fox, wouldn't it feel like we had kind of missed out on some serious conversations?
Yeah.
That's my point. He's not having serious conversations. He's doing something. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he knows what he's doing. He's not having serious conversations. And I can just tell, I mean, on my phone, see, this is the mistake I made. I gave the largest individual donation to your boy Ron Johnson in Wisconsin I ever have. After the hearing he held 2 years ago on COVID to blow it in the jab when he was willing to do it, no one else was. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I gave him the largest individual donation I've ever given a Republican politician, $500. And now I get every text message you can imagine from every Republican in any of the 9 realms daily soliciting me. All right. And I mean everybody from Mike Pence to Asa Hutchinson to Trump, all of them. Okay. People that have nothing in common, in fact. I'm on all their lists now. So, but the benefit of that, other than the irritation of them bugging me every day, the benefit of it is I kind of get to see what all these various factions are thinking, what they think their talking points are, if that makes sense, you know? In the last month, not a week has gone by that I have not gotten one, if not 2, Donald Trump direct fundraising pitches via text that invoked Tucker Carlson affirmatively. What do you think that means?
Well, again, that speaks to Aaron's sense of...
The same Tucker Carlson who, by the way, called out Sidney Powell for not releasing the Kraken and coming on a show.
Privately
who privately said that Trump had autism or Asperger's or something and was embarrassing and we had to move on. I mean, that was not very long ago, by the way, but go ahead.
Aaron's sense of mystery is appropriate, and I don't know, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, where I said, I think there seems like I'm disappointed and I didn't expect it, but there's got to be some quid pro quo here. And I said, as much as something like, if I win, you're my chief of staff. Either way, win or lose, if that's not what you want, I help you fund your next media, something.
So
like
here's the thing.
Because what you said, your example speaks to a quid pro quo.
If that's the case, then at least do serious MAGA. Like I look at a guy who should I single out? I'll single out somebody I know and like, because I was going to single somebody else out, but I don't know him that well, so that wouldn't be fair. Let me single out somebody that I know and I like personally, Charlie Kirk. I'll single him out, okay? Because that way, if I'm going to get a call, I might as well get one from somebody I like, all right? If you're going to do that, then do it seriously. Like, if this primary were not going on right now, and so we weren't in the midst of a Trump DeSantis monkey feces fleeing contest, you know what I'm trying to say? If we weren't in the midst of that, how many days a week do you think we could take whatever Charlie Kirk's podcast was about that day? And many days I don't know, because he tapes his show a lot at the same time that we're on the air. I know, because whenever I've been asked to be on it, I have to finish my show right away and jump on his, because our times overlap, okay? So, but if we went and decided, hey, we're looking for show prep, let's go see what Charlie Kirk talked about on his podcast. Unless we were dealing specifically with the DeSantis-Trump feces flinging contest, most days, do you think we could take the content that Charlie Kirk is talking about and discuss it on our show in our own way?
At least some of it.
Absolutely, you could. You see my point? Absolutely, you could. Yeah. So if you've made your bed there, Kirk has proven I don't have to be a clown to do this. I can talk serious issues. He's proven it. I've had some of the smartest conversations with Charlie Kirk that I've had with anybody that I've ever interviewed with in this industry. Tucker included. So if you've decided I've made my bed there, I pitched my tent there, that's where I think the future is and where it's going and my new base is going to be, fine. But why does that preclude you now from still doing serious conversations? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's my point. I don't really, I say this, I don't care. If the trade-off is, okay, Tucker Carlson will continue to interview East European pornographers and baseheads who may have gnawed on Barack Obama's wood 25 years ago, or he'll full throat endorse Trump but seriously address issues. What trade do you think I'm going to take?
The latter.
The latter every freaking time. Every time I'm taking that trade. Now I'm getting the worst of both worlds. You know what I'm saying? As I'm getting the worst of both worlds. I'm getting like MAGA trolling, and I'm not getting any MAGA seriousness. That's the problem. That's my, and maybe I'm articulating better now than I did in the overtime yesterday what my issue is. I don't really care. They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go. We're all very involved in this right now. This is not my first rodeo. I've been involved in this, and we were never going to be friends again. We were never going to unite again. This is the worst it's ever been. It's the toughest. It's not. Yeah, I know. Get out of here. All right. Listen, the stuff that I'm talking about is what will outlive names like Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, and he's not doing that.
The issue is, I know what it is because it's the same way for me. Most people with Tucker, it's like that in Braveheart. Listen, this guy is used to the schemers. He's the one trying to convince everybody else who the schemers are and get them courage to rise up. All right. But, at some point you got to believe in somebody and something. And all the work he put in, and it's in the middle of the movie there, when he thought he had Robert the Bruce initially on his side, and then he fights with that knight, and he takes the knight's helmet off, and it is, in fact, Robert the Bruce. And you see the look on Mel Gibson's face. That look of like, you too? That's what all of us feel a little bit with Tucker right now. Like, we knew the odds were against us. We knew, we didn't have the numbers, but we seem to have Tucker.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what is it? That's because
he's the one guy in our business.
Yeah.
Everybody else that has done it had already done it. Yeah. Mark Levin, Glenn Beck already had proven their model before this era. Yeah. Okay. The one guy in this era who has proven that he can absolutely, even Ben, who has got the #1 show in our industry, he was already a massive star before this era.
Yes.
Okay. The one guy in our industry who proved I can build a freaking fiefdom to / empire worth millions by kissing nobody's ass. One guy did that in this era, in real time. Everybody else that got away with it already had their empire built. He's the one guy. He went from making $400,000 doing a year doing weekends on Fox News, which sounds like a lot of money to you and I, is tiddlywinks in the cable news. That's minimum wage in cable news on-air talent. He went from doing that 6 years ago to the most potent force in the history of cable news. He was Bill O'Reilly on steroids in O'Reilly's late 90s peak.
Yes, this is.
And how did he do it? He kissed nobody's ass. Right. Slayed shibboleths every single day. Did not care. And so this was like, it can be done. Here's the proof of concept. He's even proven it can be done. Where did that guy go? I miss that guy. Yeah. Where was he? And you know what? If he thinks Trump's the best option, then just endorse him. But then go back to being that guy. Then at least, you know what I'm saying? Right now I've got nothing. Nothing. I don't want to watch. I don't need to watch. I don't care to watch. There's nothing to watch. It's just, what is this?
My list of allies grows thin, Aragorn.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
How many times did you say that when we thought we had Tucker, Todd? And now without him or whatever this is?
Yeah.
It's disappointing. It's kind of... it's just disappointing.
Yeah. I don't care what Tucker thinks about Ron DeSantis. Yeah. He can do his next episode. Ron DeSantis would be a terrible choice for president. And I don't care if it gets 500 million views, if the next 10 episodes are actually what we saw on Fox News. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would make that trade all day. We're not getting that. We're getting the worst of both sides of this. Jessica Henniger Cox writes, I believe the answer for those of us who are ride or die Trump is very simple. Trump cannot be bought. My concern, as well as others I have spoken with, is that DeSantis has been a cog in the Republican machine now for quite some time. He's 45 years old. He's not been a politician for a long time. He's 45 years old. If elected president next year, he'd be one of the youngest presidents we've ever elected. In addition, furthermore, before I go to the rest of your note, Jessica. What did Trump do? What swamp did he drain in office? What did he do? Because it seems as if 5 seconds after he left, all the cockroaches came back and are now worse than they were before. DeSantis stood up to the sugar lobby in Florida. He's actually being attacked by Trump in Iowa for not giving in to the ethanol lobby here, for not selling out to them. He's being attacked by Trump for not selling out to the lobbyists in Iowa. He took on Disney, who just surrendered their lawsuit except for one meaningless count about free speech. You see that news yesterday? Disney yanked the lawsuit. It wasn't going to win against DeSantis. So help me understand how the guy that stood up to the arguably the largest corporate lobby in his state and stood up to the largest corporate influence in his state, Disney. Help me, Jessica, I'm asking you. Help me understand how that's the guy who's going to sell out. Help me understand that. I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense to me. In fact, it seems the exact opposite of what you're claiming. In addition, she writes, it was Trump's influence that put DeSantis in the position he is now in. Granted, DeSantis took that and made the most of it and has accomplished a great deal. So if he's accomplished a great deal, why are you worried? If you acknowledge he's accomplished a great deal, why are you worried about he's going to sell out? However, he has shown a quality of being disloyal that disturbs me. In addition, he is not authentic and it shows. How is he not authentic? I mean, there's two candidates here that matter. One of them, his wife is on the campaign trail with him. Where's the other guy's wife? You know where she is? Nobody knows. She's just completely disappeared from public life. So the guy that fired over 20 people from Florida state government, fired Soros prosecutors, stood up to Disney and stood up to the sugar lobby is not authentic. The guy at the rallies that got you to chant drain the swamp and then didn't, and then put a bunch of those people like Mitch McConnell's wife in his administration, that's authentic. I don't understand that. I'm asking. Help me understand. She goes on to say, loyalty is extremely important to me. And as such, I will never, ever trust Ron DeSantis, no matter his accomplishments. So then ultimately, Donald Trump matters more to you than the public policies that would actually change and improve your life. What's loyalty? Giving Moderna $100 billion to create a mass poison? What's loyal about that for you? I'm asking. What is loyal about that?
I'd rather this be like a bot or a troll than a real person, because this being a real person is just sad.
No, it
Ashton
even ends.
Kutcher pop out and say "psych" at the end of this.
She means it, and I'm trying to figure this out. I don't understand it. In fact, she signed it, sincerely and truthfully written. I know there is a block of people in this audience that feels this way. I know there is a larger block of people in other people's audiences that feel this way. I would like to understand it, because on a lot of other areas we agree. But I have no idea why loyalty to and among politicians matters more to you than loyalty to yourself and your own beliefs. I mean, did you feel better being locked down because Trump did it? It was like, it wasn't that bad that my kids didn't go to school for 6 months because Trump did the lockdowns, and so we didn't feel quite as locked down as we would have if Joe Biden did it. I don't understand that. Help me to understand that. And we all know people like this on the right. We've all heard these kinds of arguments. Help me to understand it. Prove to me, I'm asking sincerely, prove to me that you're not an idolater, because this reeks to me of the classic biblical worldview definition of idolatry. that you have put Trump in a messianic place. And I say that from someone that gets at least 10 emails a day from angry DeSantis people for pointing out the things that Trump was successful about. Which is why I have no problem voting for him if he's the nominee again. But I don't understand why, what loyalty does Trump owe you? To not lock you down, to not give Fauci an award on his last day in office, to not print more money than we'd ever printed in the history of this country through the CARES Act, to not come up with Operation Warp Speed to create the vaccine he's proud of, which you don't probably want to take. What does he owe you? Forget what Ron DeSantis owes Donald Trump. What does Donald Trump owe you? What's populist about politicians are owed? When are the people finally owed something? I mean, just an hour ago, I saw on Twitter Ron DeSantis calling for Republicans in Congress to fight on defund and defund the agencies that are weaponizing against Trump. In other words, Ron DeSantis is calling, the guy who, by the way, co-founded the House Freedom Caucus everybody loves, he co-founded it. Ron DeSantis is actually calling on Republicans in Congress to do more to defend Trump than Trump has asked them to do. He's not done that at all. And that's the only way to actually defend Trump. That seems pretty loyal to me. I don't understand. Because from my worldview vantage point, what you're suggesting is idolatry. And as a Christian, I have to reject that. Not should I do it or will I do it? I have to. I'm commanded to. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to put a human being in a messianic place. I'm not. And so when we start changing the definitions of things and being unevenly distributing our values and principles in order to accommodate a figure or a belief, that is the classic biblical definition of idolatry. Now, maybe I'm missing something and idolatry is not what it is. I would love then to explain that to me. Because I don't enjoy being at war with a segment of my own audience. I really don't. I'm just willing to. Do not mistake my willingness to do it with my joy doing it. When we get off the air after I have to do this, guys, do I tell you have I ever told you, man, it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do that again until tomorrow?
No.
I freaking hate it. I hate this aspect of it. I did not get into this business to go to war with my own people. I did it to go into war against them. Do I enjoy going to war against them?
Yes.
I'd love to do that all day long. This makes me want to leave the business. I mean, I'll just be brutally honest with you. This exhausts me. I have no energy level for this. But my life is not my own. I was bought at a high price. I'm not allowed to ignore idolatry at this level and just say, not my fight. So if this is not idolatry, explain to me then what it is. If you demand more loyalty to Trump than you demand him to be loyal to you, that is idolatry. Period. If someone's accomplishments, what they've actually done, did Jesus say, by their relationships you will know them? Is that what he said?
No.
By who their friends are, you will know them. Is that what he said?
No.
Did he say, by their loyalty you will know them?
No.
What did he say?
Fruit.
By the fruit you will know them. So if someone's accomplishments or their fruit matters less to you than whether they have adored the same entity that you do, that is, I'm sorry to tell you, but someone needs to, that is idolatry. Unless there's an argument here in your note, and I didn't edit anything, by the way, unless there's an argument here in your note, or people that think like you, unless there's an angle to this you've not presented to me, you are, sadly, unfortunately, an idolater. You will do things on behalf of someone else that they're not owed. No human being is owed this level of allegiance. Not even your spouse. And the Bible says that's the most sacred human relationship of them all. But if your spouse decides to change truth and change terms and do things that are bad, are we supposed to follow our spouse or follow God? God. If we follow our spouse instead, what are we then?
Idolaters.
And we're idolaters. So maybe this just isn't framed well. Maybe it can be framed better. But the way that it's framed here, and I see this every day on social media, Legion, in fact, this is classic idolatry. Now, let me make an argument for Donald Trump over Ron DeSantis that is not classic idolatry. Trump has actually faced the people on the national stage. DeSantis has not. Trump did not have massive majorities in the Florida legislature that DeSantis did. And yes, he gets credit for bending them to his will and making them move further right. But bending the Florida legislature to your will is not the same as bending Mitch McConnell to your will. Fair?
Sure.
Or Paul Ryan? Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Donald Trump has, we hope, but we know that Donald Trump's foreign policy tilts to making peace deals as opposed to dropping bombs and endless war. We know that for a fact because we witnessed it when he was president, right?
Yeah.
Did I say anything dishonest?
No.
No. Donald Trump appointed the judges that gave us what I think others would have to at least say is arguably the greatest culture war win of our lifetimes, the overturning of Roe. Did I say anything untrue?
No.
Did I unfairly besmirch Ron DeSantis' character or anybody else's in what I just said?
No.
No. So therefore, what I just said is not what?
A lie?
A lie. So that would make it not idolatry. Yeah. That's a pretty good case for Donald Trump, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you hear that case?
That's the first time.
Yeah. You more often hear this stuff. This is idolatry. There is an affirmative, moral, principled case to make for Donald Trump. It infrequently gets made. If you make that case to me, am I going to get mad?
No.
If you make that case to me, am I going to push back on it aggressively?
No.
No. What am I probably going to do? Hey, I still think DeSantis overall is the better candidate, but that's a pretty strong argument. So, okay, cool. What happens if you make this case to me? What am I going to do? If you bring me an idol, what am I going to do?
What we've been doing.
I'm going to smash it. That's what I'm going to do. Because that's what I'm called to do. We aren't ever going to out idolatry the idolaters on the left. We never are going to do it. Never.
She sure is trying, though.
We're never going to love our monkey, Sprockets. We're never going to do Sprockets better than they do. Never. No matter how much I love that black turtleneck I wear several times a year in the winter. Never going to happen. And if this is the booyah base that we are cooking with here, if this is our water table, we're screwed. Because the demonic left is always going to be better at idolatry. Because idolatry is inherently demonic. And that's, they speak parcel tongue. This is their native language. This should not even be a second language to us. Shouldn't be a language at all. We aren't going to beat these people like this. With Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Roy Hobbs, Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn. Just reference him again. Why not? Jared Goff, Pat Mahomes. Well, he might do it with Pat Mahomes. I don't know. But not beating these people with this, no matter what name we are rallying behind at the moment. More in a moment. Well, we have had autumn arrive this week in the Midwest. Very thankful for that after a brutal stretch in much of July and August of heat. A couple weeks in between where it got nice, but then, man, other than that in-between period, it was a very, very warm summer. Put Sweat Block to the test, and it more than did the job. I know a lot of our colleagues at BlazeTV that are still stationed in Dallas, 105, 107, day after day after day after day. This is where Sweat Block comes in. Even though when it's not going to be hot, even in the wintertime, if you're someone that deals with excessive sweating, whenever the adrenaline kicks in, a high pressure situation, public speaking, a job interview, a first date, etc., use the antiperspirant wipes from Sweat Block to help with that excessive sweating. I love the lotions for Sweat Block as well. They have deodorant lotions. Those come in handy. Their deodorant stick is the truth. It does not mess around. If you want to try Sweat Block, get 20% off today at sweatblock.com. Use the promo code DACE. Sweatblock.com, promo code DACE for 20% off. 20% off with the promo code DACE at sweatblock.com. All right, you guys ready to continue on with the Feedback Friday?
I'm not sure.
After that letter.
You know how many emails I got during the break? I know someone like this. I know a family member like this. I hear this from members of my family all the time. I must have gotten 15, 20 emails just during the break from people telling me. I know people like this. And they can't ever, my dad is like this. Someone said, my dad is like this. What do? I wrote him back. There's nothing you can do. We can't cure idolatry. We're not the Holy Spirit. We can't do it. What we can do, if we have the Holy Spirit in us, is confront it. And then let the Holy Spirit do its work from there. That's all we can do, though. But ultimately, there isn't like a logic-based argument at that point. My name is Tyler. I'm a 33-year-old Army veteran, originally from Northern California. I currently live in Central Louisiana. First, I'd like to thank you guys. I love your show and the truth you all bring to the airwaves every day. I've been a listener since mid-2020. I took a break at the beginning of 2021 after I went so far down the rabbit hole of conspiracies, I almost couldn't make it back out again. Dude, we're feeling you. Okay. I mean, some of the stuff that I was watching on YouTube at night during that period of time, some dark stuff. All right. So I'm feeling you. Okay. So I cut ties with all news media and decided to focus on me and my family. I ended up picking you all back up again during the midterms. I've been watching and listening ever since. I'd love to share my upbringing and my journey to Christ and my testimony about where I am today. The Spirit has been screaming at me to get out of my comfort zone and tell my testimony, but my flesh is resisted because of my past, and my family lives in California still. They are, as you can guess, completely hanging off the left wing, and I'm not that way anymore. I haven't been for a long time. I've not fully come out to my California family about my alignments. For some context, my mom is extremely proud of the picture she has of my sister at the age of 9 standing with Creepy Joe back in 2015. I know that sharing my testimony publicly will end up bringing everything that separates my liberal family and I to the surface. I can't look past or condone the things that they believe in, but I can still love them and I can still pray for them. My family, on the other hand, I don't know what they will do and how they will react. And this is about half of my family. I'm afraid of losing all of that, even though I know it is what will cost me. It's what cost me to follow my Savior. So how do I go about sharing my full testimony without going full scorched earth with my family? Is that even possible? Thank you guys for the work that you put in. God bless. So Tyler, here is the best advice I can possibly give you. Going back to the last conversation we just had. By their skillful and artful way of communicating their beliefs, you will know them. No. By their winsome way of confronting controversial subject matter, you will know them. No. By their endearing way of expressing themselves persuadably, you will know them. No. What's the Lord say again? Fruit. Now, another word for fruit here is testimony. That the fruit in your life is your ultimate testimony. Now, that is not to say there's not a place for persuadable words. At least I hope there's a place, because that's how we're all making our livings here. Okay? But there's not a place for those things. But they are not in place of your testimony, ultimately, which is your fruit. So let me present something radical to you for a moment. Why do you think you need to verbally say anything? I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying there's never a place to. But why do you feel like you need to? Like, I think it's School of Rock. Remember the Jack Black movie, School of Rock?
Of course.
And at the end of the movie, one of the kids comes out as gay. And the rest of the school kids were like, well, we already figured that out by your behavior and everything else, so not a big deal. In other words, in a pagan sense, by their fruit you will know them. Mm-hmm. They looked at the fruit on this young man's tree, and the fact that he came out and told them it was gay was anticlimactic to them at that point. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like you have to say anything? Now, I mean, if you are feeling that compulsion and conviction, then, follow that. But short of that, I would let the way I live my life do the talking. It will speak very loudly all on its own if you're surrounded by that many people that believe differently than you. I would just live my life. And by the way, when stuff comes up, would I remain silent? No. Don't ask me my opinion if you don't want to know. I'll tell you. But I would let the fruit of my life change and transformation be like a pulling guard here that clears out space for the running back to get through the hole later on. I don't know that there needs to be an announcement. I would just live out a life transformation. And then when called upon, speak up, and the credibility of your own testimony will only help to confirm what you verbalize. Thoughts?
I think you're right, but I think you are asking out loud what a lot of us try to do in our own head when we're going through this thing and we reach some of the hurdles of our faith, the tough choices. I think you're asking, let's just all do it out loud. You're asking, is there a way I can somehow avoid the part where the Lord says, brother will be set against brother, father will be set against son?
No, just get that out of your head right now, too. There's no way of avoiding that.
You can't do that. No. And I wish I could tell you otherwise, but I'm being your brother by telling you it's impossible.
Dude, Jesus' brothers came to at one point and said, you're acting and talking crazy, come home.
Yeah.
Now, those brothers later on wrote books of the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay. So it can have a happy ending, but it probably won't have a happy beginning. So if you're asking for that reason, I guess I took it looking for like a strategic process. If you're asking for is there a way of this not creating friction, then oh no. So just go ahead and get that out of your head right now, brother. That ain't happening. And for anybody else who has that question, just go ahead and get that out of your head. But here's the goal. The goal is that despite the friction of when it becomes known, that when stuff goes down in people's lives and they think of who do I call? Who does it seem is on the right path, is solid, has some answers. That they overlook the previous friction when they're desperate and then they call you later on. Right? That to me that's a sign that you have made headway.
Todd said exactly what I was going to say, and I'll also say this as well. Get it into your mind right now that this path might take decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Might take decades.
Might take you being in a box with a closed or open casket.
Yeah.
We're all Alfred, and you're the real life Batman. Endure.
Yeah.
Just endure.
Yep.
And that's what we're called to do as believers. We're called to endure. And you know why we're called to endure? Because he endured for us.
Yes.
That's why. This is from Sarah Bowden. She says, Todd, I was struck by your comment a couple of weeks ago about how it is your prayer that your daughters marry courageous and virtuous men. It's my prayer that my sons are worthy of such titles, but I've struggled for years to find a ministry that encourages men to be men. Being a man isn't a quality easily found and isn't really something to be taught, but rather emulated. We finally found a church a year ago that is strongly preaching the word and calling out sins common to this age, but the student ministry just doesn't engage the students in a meaningful way. This is a common problem.
You know,
this is a very common problem.
It's common, but I think there's a reason why it's common and that nobody wants to admit. Student ministry as a rule, a general rule, is just garbage.
It is the most likely bouillabaisse, I'll use that term again, for heresy in your church almost every single time.
Why are you separating? They're supposed to learn what it means to be a man from men. Some of them are their dads. There's a lot of other men, and if we keep separating from the men, maybe there just aren't any. But if there are men and we're separating from them to do the kids' things, like we're setting ourselves up for failure. I just think, and I was part of it in my own life. I know my kids did some things, but I was wise as serpent as well as innocent as doves when it came to children's ministry. I think they're very often, like from the get-go, just a fool's errand of nonsense.
Well, I want you to know, Roman Catholic, there is a wing of Reformed America that believes in family church and agrees with every word you said, and they have never praised a Catholic more as a denomination than they are right now. You are singing their siren song. It is, you have... Absolutely. Don't be surprised if they finally invite a Romanist to come and speak. Okay. I'm being over the top, obviously. But no, I mean, it is a growing movement in Reformed Protestant circles of what you just said, a fear of, I mean, ultimately, if we're trying to create young women that know what it means to be a wife and a daughter and young men that know what it means to be a husband and a father, then when they come to church, why do we separate them from the moms and the dads? That's a growing thought. Now, a lot of American evangelicalism is, well, the kids are used to being segregated all week long from the parents in a learning environment, and then maybe they will say things to us that they otherwise wouldn't want to say, with the parents around. That's kind of the thing.
That's weird.
Which is weird. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Anyway, We finally found a church a year ago that is strongly preaching the word and calling out the sins of the common age, but the student ministry, it just doesn't engage in a meaningful way, or at least as my boys see it. You're more likely to find a Mike Pence type engaged in student ministry than a Jack Hibbs. Our pastor is continuing to align closer to a Hibbs, but the elders and thus our pastor's council are more like a Mike Pence. I'm divorced and their dad lives states away. I wasn't a believer when we married, and let's just say I didn't marry well. At the very least, he is not the example I desire for my boys. They are 16 and 17, so my authority over them is coming to a close, and I want them to have a life worth living. So what guidance would you give them to set them on the right path as they venture into adulthood? What are some tools or teachings you would recommend to help grow in a faithful approach to understanding the Word? Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I think this one, I mean, they're still 16 and 17. Mm-hmm. They're still at home. So this is a great opportunity. In fact, I had the opportunity myself, and I got paid for it too. Find in your church, and I assume, I don't know how big of a church you are, but I assume you know some men who actually are men in your church. So I struggle with my cord, pulling a Steve Deace over here, sorry. If there's like a construction or a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician, go to that man and ask, hey, can one of my boys apprentice for you over the summer? That's a double whammy. You're learning a skill and you get to spend time like in the real world with real men. That's what I would say.
That's good advice. Todd?
I think you also simply need to take up, you need to be St. Monica to St. Augustine. You know, she prayed without ceasing for her son. And we know who he is now, but he put that off for a very long time and ultimately became one of the great saints of the church. You need to pray without ceasing in ways that he doesn't know and may never know, but also passages of scripture regularly text to him without any expectation you're going to hear back, but be just relentless about it, just constant about it, that you love him, you want this to be in his life, and so but with no commentary, just sending him passages of scripture. Maybe he'll comment, maybe he don't, but that no matter what you do, you have to do that. There's Aaron's avenue, there's other avenues, but you can't compromise on that front. You've got to trust the Holy Spirit's plan and its ability to do things that you cannot see or hear or wrap your brain around in this moment.
Good advice again. I'll add this: not knowing where you live or what resources are around you. You have a sense of urgency, and I think that is good. You understand that the clock is ticking. It's not over yet, as Aaron pointed out, but it's ticking. Okay. And I would be looking at taking whatever extra resources I have, discretionary spending resources I have, and I would make it a priority to put those into practice in places that will help my sons grow into becoming the men I want them to be. And when they're gone, you'll not get another chance at this period of time ever again. And you'll have more freedom and time to use your discretionary income and spending on things that you want to do. But I would absolutely prioritize missionally what you articulated in that note with my money. And I'd be looking at what is in my area or even in other areas. I want to send them on a mission. I want to send them on a retreat. I want to send them to a camp. I would be looking at stuff like that as well. But it's good for you and admirable that you are looking for it. So well done, good and faithful servant. A reminder about our friends at Relief Factor. If you're struggling with chronic pain from too much inflammation in the body, Relief Factor may be the drug-free answer for you. Now, it was prescribed, or it was created by doctors who can prescribe drugs. And hey, there's not always a drug-free or natural solution to everything. We hope that there is, because that puts less taxing on the body and puts less strain on other systems and organs as well. But every now and then there's not. So, that's life in a fallen, sinful world. We don't live physically forever. But when there is that kind of an option, take advantage of it. We're 70% confident that you're going to see the results you want in 3 weeks or less from Relief Factor. Why? Because that's about how many people stick around. After they try the 3-week quick start for just $20, about 70% of the time they stick around long term because of the results they see in 3 weeks or less. So put them to the test and see if you might be their next success story when you go to relieffactor.com. Again, that's relieffactor.com. Or you can call them at 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or relieffactor.com. Any final thoughts before we head out of here for the week?
Yeah, I would just say I got to work for a contractor and spent the summer. Now, this is my first summer after college, building a house. Did a couple of roofing jobs, and he was a guy in the church that an elder actually in the church that I grew up in. You learn a lot of stuff, a lot of really good stuff, and you get to see a really good example. So that's kind of a finer point on the advice that I gave our last emailer. Good stuff.
All right, that'll do it for today's and this week's show. We're back at it again on Monday, noon to 2 Eastern. Until then, have a great weekend. John 3:17.